What is a regret that you have had in your life? Regrets can take the form of many things. It could be a life path that you never chose, friends you left behind, family you had arguments with, and that one trip that you never booked. A lot of people have regrets in their life, and the problem with that is that those regrets stack up over time in the back of your subconscious mind if you don't learn to deal with them. That's why it's fully important to realize what you regret in your life and then also learn to move past it so that you don't repeat it, and then also beat yourself up for it. I'll tell you what I regret in my life, or at least one of them. I regret many things in my life, but one of them was never taking a gap year after I graduated from college. I wish I had listened to myself rather than other people in my life at the time, like, for example, my parents who were cautioning me to enter the workforce like almost immediately after I graduated, or my college counselor at the time, I believe, or my research advisor. It's such a long time ago that I don't even remember anymore. But she was advising me to, graduate early and, enter the real world and stuff like that after I got my college degree. And I feel like the Nate that was from, when did I graduate? I graduated college early, so that was 2017. So I graduated college 2017, and the Nate from 2017 is drastically different from the Nate in 2024. And I really hope so, because time lets you grow older, wiser, all that great stuff. Hopefully you're wiser, otherwise you're not doing it right. But the thing is that at the time, I wish I would have had the foresight to have taken a break, because college is a very intensive time. Ask anyone that's gone through the system. It's a lot of rigorous studying, depending on your major, you're networking, you're trying to figure out what you want to do in life at the same time. You're overloading yourself with as many credits as semesterly possible, just to make sure that you graduate on time and you don't want to feel like you're falling behind. All these questions running through your head. And I wish I would have stopped after I graduated in 2017, which was earlier, and really thought about what I wanted to do. Now that I'm obviously I got my graduate degree, I have a couple of years of work experience in my belt, and kind of looking back on it, they say hindsight is 2020, I believe the expression is, but I really wish I would have given myself the opportunity to kind of vocalize my desire to just take a gap year in between my college years, my first or one of my first real jobs that I was going to work, and then graduate school. Because I feel like that gap year would have given me a better understanding of what I really wanted to do with my life. And I'm still trying to figure that out. Obviously we all are as we progress through life. But I see so many people now that are in their college years, right? I have all these friends that have gone through college with me. They were part of my graduating class, or they've graduated from grad school already, like what we did before back in California. And now that part of their lives is over, and they're getting married, they're having kids, they are getting their first house, their only house, they're getting more work experience under their belts with their careers, and they're entering a different phase of their life. And for me, I'm in that same kind of era where I'm doing YouTube videos about career development and just existential questions. I'm working on my Embassy Life in DC project at the same time as a creative hobby that I want to turn into a full-time job one day. So it's we're all in different eras, but I didn't fully realize that I wanted to do both of these projects until I came to DC, which was obviously way into the future. But I feel I would have, in some sense, started maybe earlier had I traveled the world volunteering in different parts of the world with sea turtle conservation, all the way to maybe teaching English. I have no idea, but I see all these and social media is partially to blame for this, because they show the best parts of life, and I understand that, but I don't know, I follow a bunch of travel accounts, right? Because I want to be a pseudo travel influencer, sort of at the same time, because it's fun, and talk about where I go and stuff like that. But it's just every so often I'll see an account about this 23-year-old college kid that graduated, and they did not want to be chained to a desk for the rest of their 20s, for their 9 to 5, for a 9 to 5 job. And I definitely completely understand that. I mean, I would not want to be either, but we do what we gotta do, right, to pay the bills. And they post about their gap year in Thailand or in France or anywhere, you know what I mean? Like they took a gap year after they graduated from college, and they were just like, you know what, worst comes to worst, I'm going to go volunteer for like a full year somewhere, traveling across the world, teaching English, helping sea turtles, helping locals, like whatever. It doesn't matter, but I'll get to see the world, I'll get to meet new people, and I'll get to try new things. And that gives you more clarity and purpose than what I can communicate in a YouTube video than simply just going to work straight away. And yeah, you can argue, like, you know, on a resume and stuff, it doesn't look good if you take a gap year, but it also depends on where you apply. Like, some companies respect the heck, that you decided to take a gap year to figure out what you wanted to do with your life. And some actually count that towards what they call like community experience when they evaluate like an applicant like holistically, instead of just like looking like what your GPA is, what you've done with your life, what projects you worked on, etc., etc. So it's just like, that's one of the regrets that I have in my life. And I know that is an irony when we're talking about me specifically, because of the fact that like I grew up abroad and like I've seen the world long before I turned like 18 in some respects, but it's different. It's like you grew up in like, these countries like Egypt and Cambodia, but as a kid with a changing perspective of the world around you that you don't fully appreciate until you turn into an adult. And to be able to kind of experience that through a gap year between your college and your grad school years, it's a special time in life because you're trying to figure out who you are. You don't have that many responsibilities. Like typically most people that graduate college don't have a family, don't have kids, don't have a mortgage to pay. They live with their parents right now just to save money potentially, and worst comes to worst, they can always go back home if their money dries up and they just get homesick. So it's like, it's a special time of life because you can afford to take risks. And I'm not saying that like if you're old, like I'm 28, right? And like theoretically I could take a gap year right now if I wanted to, but like I'm less inclined to do so because of the fact that like, I have things going on in my life right now. I may or may not want a career depending on like where I go and stuff like that. The idea of taking a gap year is frankly maybe a little bit more scarier because I've found personally, as I've aged, you accumulate more risks as you get older. You know what I mean? It's just like you're making more money now because you have more years of work experience. You don't necessarily want to sacrifice that to do sea turtle conservation work in Cambodia because you're just volunteering and you're not making anything. You see, it's like there's an element of risk that you accumulate, I believe, as you get older, which makes sense because as you get older, you fall in love, you have a family, you have kids, whatever you want. So it's just like one of the regrets in my life is that I never took the opportunity to do a full gap year right after college. And it's because I listened more to the people around me that were always telling me that like if you didn't do a gap year, for example, you'd be screwed, like royally. It's like if you don't get a job right after you graduate, it's like, oh, it's the end of the world. And it's not. Like if I ever have kids and they ever go to college, that's one regret that I don't want them to have. I want them to be able to like take a gap year, for example. And I recognize like not everyone can do that and stuff like that, but there are plenty of organizations out there that in exchange for, you flying out there, covering your plane ticket for like 6 months and like working over there for free, they cover room, board, and food, drinks, all that stuff, So it's like, you don't spend, the only cost is your time and the money for the flight. So go figure. But if I ever have kids, I would want them to take a gap year, to see the world if they didn't like somehow, do that, to understand what they really want to do in life, you know what I mean? Like to get a better perspective. And it's just like, I'm thankful with the way that my life has developed, and especially with the way that I'm developing right now, because I'm realizing slowly what I want versus what I don't want. And I just feel like it's such a special time in your life when you're like, I was 21, I think, when I graduated college. No, that doesn't make any sense. No, 21, 22. Yeah, 21, 22, in that range, whatever. And like, I don't know, it's very hard for me to communicate this in like a YouTube video, but I feel like if anyone watching this has like gone through college, or if you're going through college and like you're considering taking a gap year, like you would understand. Because like you don't have that many responsibilities if you're privileged enough in that case, which is great. And like the idea of a gap year is so exciting because you can literally just live out of a suitcase or a bag for 6 months out of the year, whatever you want, however long you want to, and then you go off and you see the world. Bring a camera with you, document your journey. Like, you have all these people on YouTube now that are like, chronicling their like volunteer journey like across the world, which could lead to a career in being a YouTuber or being a creator or whatever, like that portfolio could help you get a job. Who knows? So that's just like, if you're in college right now, or if you're in grad school, if you're in between, if you're a little bit older, this one applies to like everybody and stuff like that. And if you're trying to consider whether or not to take a gap year or not, first of all, the job market isn't that good. Well, to be fair, it has ups and downs like everything, but I would strongly recommend that you take a gap year if you want to. And if you can swing it, if you have like a home base that you can always go back to with staying for family, if things get rough too much, do it. Because like, I wish I would have done that. And I think that would have given me more clarity with what I want to do like right now in my life. Would it, lead to the same outcome with me being in DC? Probably not. Maybe that would have encouraged me to go a different route. But the gap year is that lots of people do it for a reason, because they want to see the world. They don't want to work yet. They want to give themselves time. You know what I mean? Because I'll tell you this, real life sucks. Like all the responsibilities that come along with being an adult, like when you graduate into the real world, paying taxes, which you have to do when you're a student anyway, but paying taxes, having a real-time job, having a full-time job, sorry, having to appease your boss, having to work 40 hours a week, like it sucks being an adult, frankly, it really does. And like you get older, you have to start paying for your own stuff, like rent and food and power and all that stuff, car insurance, all that great stuff. So it's like when you get older, you lose the opportunity in some respects to be able to take such risks out of living out of a backpack for 6 months. So if you're trying to consider whether or not you want to do a gap year, do it. Because I wish I would have done that when I was like 22, 23. I feel like my life would have maybe taken a different turn. Can I do that now? Yes. Am I inclined to do so? Not really, because like I have goals in mind right now, and if I take a gap year, I would need to spin things in a different way. So I'm a hypocrite. Deal with it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more content. See you next time.